Olaba Fetu, thank you so much for joining us for season 2 of the Kasi Business podcast. Today we're talking to an amazing gentleman, but this is our episode 7, right? And I think, as you know, the pillars, unpacking information in a simplified and practical manner so that you are able to really just start and navigate your entrepreneurial journey. And I think for us, it's simple, bringing you leaders who are either in the business fraternity to bring you content and to share practical tools and information to help you navigate this particular path, but also most importantly, so that you're able to draw inspiration from people that look like you, but people who've actually grown and started amazing careers and also businesses. And today is no exception whatsoever. I've got an amazing gentleman, and you guys know, without letting the cat out of the bag, I'd love to introduce you to Dr. Stephen Zwane. Doc, how are you doing?
I'm very well, Bulani. How are you?
No, I'm very, very good and very excited to have you out here, Kasi. But I think, Boz, you're someone who's very passionate about entrepreneurship, about youth, about townships, about the advancement of just human beings. But without even getting into your bio, we always give our guests an opportunity to introduce themselves in the way that they would best simulate or love to greet our guests.
Awesome. I mean, thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir.
It's really a pleasure to be here. We've watched from a distance your podcast grow and the amazing work that you do. So we all want to be a part of your ecosystem. My name is Dr. Stephen Zwane. I'm a Soweto-born, raised in Dobsonville. So I do form part of the township ecosystem. My biggest excitement about life is youth entrepreneurship development. So I can represent many others of my colors, but the biggest one is youth development. I believe that our country needs nothing else except to show young people that entrepreneurship can be a career path. We've got so many role models that prove to us that entrepreneurship is possible for us. But because of the environment in which we were raised, the entrepreneurship we saw is not the entrepreneurship we wanted. And therefore, it's never something that crossed our mind. So I think that's how I want to introduce myself. The reason why I introduced myself this way is that in 2004, I sought to find a younger me after university and said, what is it that I would have wanted to know if I was in high school and that would change my life? And as I realized that if somebody taught me to be confident about who I am, the world is going to be there for the taking. And I think for me, with the concept that we started back in 2004, we wanted to make sure that young people understand that they could be more, that confidence is the biggest unlocker. Most of the time we've looked at confidence as the ability to speak English because business needs you to speak English.
Yes.
So sometimes just language on its own can be a door opener to confidence.
No, man, I mean, I really love that. And I think as we chat, I'd really love for us to unpack the narrative around there was no appetite to jump into those businesses because the businesses they saw were not necessarily businesses they want. Maybe actually let me ask you to unpack that now because I find that to be so fascinating.
Absolutely. I mean, thank you. I mean, one of the things that we saw, people go to university and study, become teachers, doctors, architects, whichever one. Most of them were funded by the goods that our parents sold at the corner.
Yes.
And that was an entrepreneurship venture. It did not look as sexy as what everybody else would look at as entrepreneurship.
Yes.
And therefore our minds told us, if this is entrepreneurship, I don't want it. Despite the fact that entrepreneurship ventures of our parents, they did not grow, but they put food on the table. They took us through school and made us the people that we are. Now, that fear effect of what entrepreneurship is has stopped a lot of people from choosing entrepreneurship. Those coming from townships and villages, because our minds have been told that is entrepreneurship. The rest of the other entrepreneurship was for others, Indians, whites, not for us. And that is why we've not fully industrialized our townships. And that's why we've not grown our businesses. Because can you imagine if at all those people that are engineers and chartered accountants took that money that they earned, invested in their family businesses, they would have grown those businesses. Our spazas would not be the shade of their former selves today. Our economies will be buzzing and industrialized fully. But now, because of that fear, a lot of us as professionals have not understood that was a seed planted all we need to do was to help grow it.
Sure, but now I think just on that I think on that notion of fear.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you grew up in Soweto. Maybe just taking it a couple of steps back, how did you find ways of working out the fear as a young person who's growing up, getting into varsity, and then now fine-tuning and finding your voice, and now ultimately saying, this is me, fear or no fear, I'm going to navigate various spaces?
So, Bulelani, I was born out of a teenage mother. My mom must have been 16 when I was born.
Wow.
She was from Dobsonville in Soweto.
Yes.
My dad was from Mpumalanga and Emelo. They met in a place called Mogazon in Mpumalanga, Makhason, those who hear. And then because they were still young and industrious, they wanted to do a lot more with their lives. So they left me and my sister with my grandfather in a place called Dakhakral in Mpumalanga.
I see Dakhakral.
So in Dakhakral, we knew very well that our situation was we were not children of the house. So which means therefore we were last in the list of everything. And therefore the treatment we were receiving were not a treatment of a normal human. It was down to being sort of a slave. So we were never the first people to get the food, we were the last ones. But also because it was a village in rural area, we were the people that were the shepherds. And then we woke up 4 o'clock in the morning, set up the fire, milk the cows, take the cows out, and then come back home and go sell fruits and vegetables at pension pay points. So by the age of 7, I knew how to sell just about anything.
Sure.
And because, I mean, we would at those days, it seemed as if pension was paid on different days according to the town. So some days we'll pay it on the first, another town on the second. So on the first, I might be in Amersfoort. On the second, I'll be in Standerton. On the third, I'll be in Forecrest. So all of that time, we're there to sell. And it was, I think for me, that was one of the things that early stage of being able to sell. And then my grandfather at the time did not believe that boys should go to school. So school was not an option.
Sure.
It was until my mom came when I must have been 10, came to fetch me and my sister and said, okay, I wanted to take you to Soweto. So we got into Soweto, 485 William Street in Dobsonville. And of course, you know a forum house. There will be about 16 people staying there. So my sister and myself were 17 and 18. So kitchen was a place where we slept. But it was for the first time where I met poverty when I came to Soweto. Because back in Dakhakral, the field was available. You could farm, you could do anything. You can make your own fruit and vegetables. You can milk a cow for meat. You can slaughter a cow at will because that was the type of environment we're in. Now you are here in Soweto, everything that you have, you pay for. So bread or anything you needed. So, and I realized in that house, because I knew how to survive back in Dakhakral, that my grandmother, who was the breadwinner, by day 5 after her pension, there's nothing else.
Sure.
So it's meant for himself, God for us all during that period. Just to come back then to say, what did I learn? I think at one stage I got stuck in Johannesburg Park Station. I think somebody would have picked 2 fingers at me.
Yes.
So now I needed to figure out how do I buy a ticket to get onto the train. And I think I saw people shining other people's shoes. I was like, okay, this is better than begging.
Yeah.
So I remember taking out a pair of socks and starting to shine people's shoes. And I think that was my first time where I learned that I can provide for all 16 people in the house. Because now I would not only afford the ticket to Kwezi Station and get off and walk about 1.3 kilometers home. Now I had lots of coins in my pocket, so I could buy PCs and I could buy things that we could go home. And I got home, I'm like, guys, I got food for everybody. And I think I did that for most part of my primary school and my high school. And I think for me, that is one thing of, I would then tell you later on that every entrepreneur story of the township starts with someone selling sweets at school, selling amakwenya, or helping someone, because we all had to be enterprising at a young age. So for me, that was me being enterprising. That put me through school. That was able to help me navigate life in general. And at the time, none of us knew what a university was. So I finished matric. All I want is a job. And like anybody else, I volunteered at a nearby NGO so that I could access a printer, so a phone, and also be able to make a CV and send out, look for jobs. And I think for me, that's really how the early years of my life started. Therefore, I got a job at a bank. That was my first.
Yeah.
I was a waste clerk. I explained to people that a waste clerk was somebody who stood by the tellers, took a deposit slip and the check, bundled them together, took them downstairs for filing. In case somebody came back and queried that I made a deposit of this check on this day.
Yeah.
So we filed. That was my job. And while doing that job, Bulelani, I learned that there's more out there. The people that were coming into the customer service counter of the bank were earning a lot more money, and some of them were much younger. And I asked, what happened? How do you get the money? And they said, you must go to school. University. I said, what university? I then started to ask everybody in the office, what does university mean? Where does it look like? Where do I find it? So on weekends, I'll go look for these universities.
What a phenomenal story. Yo.
Yeah.
So I think but also I think as you narrating the story, what sparks in me is I think where did the curiosity come from? Because I think in most cases I think in the work relationships, or we know individuals that we grew up with that are in spaces, and you look at the space or this corner, you think to yourself, Fate, you could make so much money if you just did this or this.
Yeah.
Or in the professional space, you just say to someone, dude, you're very talented. You could make way more, or you could be in more superior positions if you just did so and so.
Correct.
But they either never make the shift or they never see it.
Yeah.
Do you think that is something that is harnessed? How did you see those things, and where did the curiosity, in your view, come from before we get into the leadership business conversations?
Wulani, for me, the thing is that when my mom came to fetch us, I thought, here comes freedom.
Yeah.
I thought I could be a child again. So that's what I was looking forward to. Little did I know that the doctoral period was my training ground. So I learned never to be scared to approach someone to sell them fruits and vegetables. I learned to encounter different people, different cultures, and engage them. I learned that pride will never make you an entrepreneur. No one who is an entrepreneur has pride. So you have to lose things like pride for you to be able to say, I can make things work for myself. I think the difference between the people that make it and are open to ideas is the sense of pride. When you are proud, you won't ask. When you don't ask, you won't know.
Yeah.
And then you can't create opportunities for yourself. So for me, and now realizing, okay, I'm going to be hungry here. So I must survive. I did not go out there looking for how do I survive, so where to. But a situation happened that when I looked at it, I said, my grandfather would be very upset if they found me begging. Because I learned to earn everything. So that's why I looked and said, okay, what can I do? And I looked at that. So for me, when we fast track and over the journeys of conversation, I just think that sometimes we were just never allowed to explore life. We were raised in a protective manner. You were told you can't be this, you shouldn't do this. Nobody said explore, find your way. I don't think if I said to my mom and anyone I was raised with, if I said, I want to go shine in people's shoes, they would have said, go for it. I don't think they would have said. So it's just your own innate exploration of, I want to be more. I think there was some that drove me that says, I'm bigger than my situation, I can be more.
I mean, Dr. Zwane, of all the things that you've done, and I think in a simulation to this journey, you enter the financial services space, you go to varsity, but you've occupied a number of various roles.
Yeah.
In a number of very large organizations and institutions.
Sure.
When does it dawn on you that, you know what, I'm actually a leader?
Yeah.
And what does that conversation look like?
Wow. For me, it dawned that I was a leader when I was in high school. Because I've always been an explorer, a person who has to worry about figuring out how to survive, how to get by. And therefore, that capacity to do that made other people look at you as if you can be a leader. I remember, I must have in standard 7, that is grade 9, when I was voted into the COSAS.
Yes.
And made president of my institution, and was able to contribute to the broader region in terms of that leadership. And that voting in meant that I have to take responsibility.
Yes.
I had already learned to take responsibility for my life.
Yes.
So taking responsibility for opportunities given to me did not come in as a challenge. And then voted into the SRC. I was like, okay, people see something in me that I don't see in myself. Therefore, I must embrace this leadership opportunity. Even when I went to university, in my first year, because I shared views, shared thoughts, political parties inside the campus had started recruiting me, come and be a part of our student representative council, come and be this, come and be that. And I think I then took that as a responsibility and as a trait that I do have and I've got to contribute. So all those journeys of contributing and doing things for others and leading, I mean, one of the things I'm really proud of is that while voted into the SRC, responsible for Science Society, because I did BSc Computer Science, one of the things I observed was, because I come from a township, I've got a great deal of awareness. And I'm going to school with a lot of young people coming from villages who've never seen a sentence center, who've never seen a head office of a company. So one of the things what did was to organize a trip for a number of science students and brought them to Joburg for 10 days. We went to visit companies and find out what our careers were there. We went to South African Weather Service and said, what careers are here? We went to SAB, we went to a number of companies. I look back and realize that all of those people that were in that venture became employed in Johannesburg, in Gauteng, and they're all thriving in their careers. I think for me, and that's something that we did, 2001, 2002. So I realized that became a factor. But also I had to underscore that leadership potential with skills and competencies. So I came fortunately to work in a consulting house. It was my first job. And everybody knows that if you go to a consulting house, it's a dog eats dog. You got to stand out. Something about you to make you stand out. So I think I've been fortunate, therefore, to lead with leadership, but the ability to get things done was already there for me from when I was 7. So I'm not scared of work.
Yeah. And I love that. Now, Dr. Zwane, I mean, as I'd mentioned in the previous question, you've been, in the professional space in leadership for over 20 years.
Yeah.
How, in your view, have you seen leadership change? And what sort of leader do micro enterprise or small people, or anyone just out there, what does the new age leader, entrepreneur need to be? And what are some of the traits that they really need to bring to life?
Bulelani, the opportunity to have a skill set and have an opportunity to optimize that skill set and be rewarded for it, I think it's a huge privilege.
Yeah.
I think the first time I thought I was a boss of something was when I was appointed head of strategy and innovation at FNB in 2007. I think 5 years out of university, and now you are into management position. And I started to feel like, okay, I can be something here.
Yeah.
And I started to dream a little bit more. And I remember scribbling in a piece of paper and said, I'd like to be CEO by the time I'm 40. And now that is like my own scribble.
Yes.
And when I was able to achieve that, when I was appointed as the National Student Financial Aid Scheme as CEO in 2017, I felt like I'd achieved something great in my journey. And I think for me, those were things that were pivotal in the fact that I then started to realize that I'm a role model. So to come back about what are the things that new age leaders need, firstly, you must just know that you're a role model. And when you're a role model comes with a great deal of expectations and responsibilities. But more importantly, you have to be human-centered.
Yeah.
Don't focus on leading yourself. Contribute on leading others.
I love that.
When you contribute towards leading others, it's not the people that are reporting to you that you lead. It is the societal people that expect you to do something for them. So every Saturday, I would go back and teach grade 11's entrepreneurship. That always kept me grounded. Because at any given time, I've got these young people that I've got to give my time, my skill sets, and I was the role model for them. So for me, the biggest thing about leadership today is role model the behavior that you want the next generation to have.
Ish, yeah, I love that.
My thinking is that with so much high youth unemployment, out of the overall unemployment rate of over 30%, 60% of those are young people. Because we did not live up to the promise. The promise that we had, or we are still giving to young people, is go to school, get an education, and get a job. Now we're no longer giving the get a job answer anymore because we didn't create enough companies. And so we are creating a frustrated set of young people. So my drive is that we should say to young people, entrepreneurship is actually your gateway, that you need to be creating jobs. If you are industrial, if you are a problem solver, know that you can be an entrepreneur. When they can be entrepreneurs, they can create jobs. Now, why is this an important point? You had one of your guests, Zwane, who started her business at 28.
Yeah.
So she was a young person.
Yeah.
So she created jobs, created employment. So the history of young people creating jobs is not something new. So we've always had it in us. It's just that we all woke up to them 15 years later and thought that's when they started.
Actually.
They started all young and they created jobs. So why don't we inculcate the same culture and mindset to young people in terms of doing that? And I think for me, Bulelani, that is why we wrote the book, Rising from the Township.
Yes.
I did not only just think that doing entrepreneurship training for grade 11s, it should end there. I took it to my academic pathway. I researched it for my doctorate. The research I did was, if you train young people about entrepreneurship at a young age, what is their propensity to be entrepreneurial at 28? Because we've always been told that entrepreneurship starts at 35 and 40. Whereas if you look at township economy, actual entrepreneurship starts at 28. That's a number. So we then realized that the young people, when they are trained younger, at 27, 28, they are already agitated. They want more.
Yeah.
So they want to create something. And then we learned that a lot of them started creating side hustles. And only when the side hustles make sense does it become a business that you can then say, I can build a sustainable business. And I think Zwane must have been 31 when she said, I can now make a business out of this. So when I did the research, I did find out that if you teach somebody about entrepreneurship at a young age, even exposure to it, they are most likely to go to pursue a higher education qualification. You don't have to tell them. 95% of them went on to study further. And what also was interesting is that 98% of them are either employable or employed or even driving self-employment. So none of those people will ever be unemployed because they know that the opportunities are there for me. So when one of the things we found out in this research was that why is there a low rate of moving from I want to be an entrepreneur to being an entrepreneur? South Africa is sitting at about 10.2% of that transition. We found that those who are trained, it's about 15%. So we've got a proper 5% differential of those that get trained and all that don't get trained. And then we say, but why don't many of them become entrepreneurial? They said, we don't have enough role models. And something that's so simple. They know somebody's an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Because they don't know the journey, that entrepreneurship is hard, that it requires resilience.
Sure.
Therefore, they don't know that that person is really an entrepreneur. They look at it and say he's a businessman. They don't know that before you become a businessman, you must be an entrepreneur. And so the story then I said, okay, if at all I came from the township and I rose from the township and I became something, what about collecting stories of township-born entrepreneurs that have gone on to do something, but their journey continues, it's not stagnant.
Yes.
And then we've collected the stories. What we are answering there is, here are 10 role models. So anyone who gets a hold of the book already has 10 role models, 10 strategies of somebody that is similar story as theirs. But more importantly, they will understand the journey of the entrepreneur in less than 26 pages. It's easy for us to say to people, go and find a role model somewhere without giving them the tools. So for me, I am so excited that we've sold over 6,000 copies of the book already. A lot more people are saying, Stephen, it's easy to read. We like what you've done. And now, how do we teach our kids to be entrepreneurial? So I think for me, that's a story of leadership. That's a story of taking a claim in the economy and being part of an ecosystem that is going to be the next generation of leadership, which is based on entrepreneurship. That is why we like the work you do. That's why the country is woken up to entrepreneurship. Now, it's no longer a swear word, right?
Yes.
It's actually
palatable
now. In 2004, people were like, People need extra maths, extra accounting. I thought, give me
That was
confidence.
the main. Those were the main programs.
Absolutely.
Anything that was not that program was shunned.
Yeah, no one.
Shunned upon.
No
Sure.
one. And I think that's why right now, we now need to go beyond to say the word entrepreneurship. Let's go down and now make it different and say entrepreneurship, it is the ability to come up with a problem, solve a problem that matters to someone that is willing to pay for you. So identify a problem, solve it for someone that is willing to pay for you. So now let's make it that simple. Don't look down on somebody who's selling fish and chips at the corner, who's selling vegetables. They have found someone's problem and they're getting paid for it. There's no entrepreneurship by observing. Entrepreneurship is by doing. Young people need to do in a projectized way. One of the things we also learned is that it is a scary pathway to the point I said earlier on. The parents are not entrepreneurial. Now, this kid says he wants to be an entrepreneur. Where did you see that from?
Yeah.
Where does it start? So there's a conflict at home. They want you to be a doctor and you want to be a business person. Now, those are not complemented by what happens on Saturdays, that what happens at YLED. And the other thing that we learned was that, young people are hungry for opportunities. So there's nothing like a lost generation. There's nothing like lazy young people. If you create opportunities for young people, they will show up. Every Saturday, these young people show up. They could have done something else about their Saturday. They're grade 11. There's more to do in life. And they show up every Saturday, which gives us a responsibility to show up. But what then have I learned broadly about entrepreneurship and young people is that everybody must know that entrepreneurship starts with what you have. If you know how to plait somebody's hair, plait somebody's hair. Let you get paid for it. If you start with what you have, you will understand that it starts from within. And the second part that we learned about entrepreneurship is invest the money you are willing to lose. So if at all you are plaiting hair and somebody tells you that these are the hair pieces you need and all of it costs you 150 rand, and for argument's sake, somebody can be willing to give you 150 rand, and then you can go start doing that 150 rand. There's nothing you're going to do. The chance of losing are slim. Because we've been told so many times that we started to believe that if I don't have money, I can't start a business. And then we say money was equal to a bank. It's not the case anymore. You invest money that you're willing to lose. Entrepreneurs do exactly that, but also be open that sometimes your idea can be a lemon. You need to turn the lemon into a lemonade. That's what entrepreneurs do. So those are the things that we've learned. And lastly, we learned that entrepreneurship training does not equal entrepreneurship action. You can be entrepreneurial in the workplace.
Yes.
You can be an innovator in the workplace. You can lead. You can be promoted. We need those change makers inside the organization to expand their leadership to make a difference. So you are just simply teaching someone to be a problem solver. That's what entrepreneurship is about.
Sure. So, Dr. Zwane, just let me in on this. I mean, what are some of the lemons that went sour in your journey? Don't need to share them more or go into details, because I think sometimes, especially with experienced entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs that are out there, there's almost that, what if I fail?
Yeah.
What if this thing goes past? I'd rather not even try at all.
I've had the privilege, with Rising from the Township, writing the book and also my own story. I think for me, I point out to the one biggest lemon, which was you'll never amount to anything.
Yeah.
You get told you'll never amount to anything.
Yeah.
And a lot of us take that into heart, and it becomes our sort of the beat in which we dance to. And sometimes then that becomes translated to reality. I never did dance to that beat. When somebody said you can't be anything, I was like, who gives you the right to think like that?
Yeah.
And I think for me, that was one of the things of just conquering that mindset, which Zwane refers to as conquering the poverty of the mind.
Yeah.
And then the other one was you come across too strong, Stephen. So most of the bosses I reported to, they said, Stephen, you come across too strong. So which means you get limited opportunities to be promoted. Some people think you know better. And so you must dim your light so that other people can shine, because your presence threatens them. And I think for me, why I mentioned that is because I grew up in the streets. I know that I've never had to rely on anyone but myself. So coming across too strong, maybe in the language I speak, because English is not my first language.
Yes.
So please tell me, how do I become less strong? How do I come across less strong? You went to a black university called the University of Zululand. You are not as smart as those who went to VETS. You are not as smart as those who went to UCT. And so we don't recognize you as deserving of being in the corporate. I think that lemon, I really made it work in my head. I remember I said to myself, I'm going to study overseas, where I can be able to study in what is called the North, the West area, where people think, yeah, that's where education is. I was fortunate to get a Nelson Mandela Scholarship because I wanted to prove to myself that I think I was smart, that I think deserving. And I got a Nelson Mandela Scholarship. I went overseas, was in England. I studied for a master's for a year. And every time I went to write an exam, I thought I was representing my country. I thought I wanted to prove those people who said, no, you went to University of Zululand, a Bush University. You're not as smart as the others. And I think when I came back with that master's, finished on record time, and that opened doors for me, I can then go to someone who's watching this podcast who's saying, no, you went to an inferior institution, you say, I've got a qualification, I wrote exams, I am good for it. See the work I do and judge me on that. Don't judge me by a piece of paper because we all sat for an exam. But I allowed it to get into my head. That was a big lemon that I had to convert into a lemonade. Not many people get to be able to convert these psychologically based lemons into lemonade. That is why we have podcasts like this to conversate. The more we tell our stories, the more someone can find resonance in the stories that we tell. To go to university at 24, to start your career at 27, you have to be very resilient as a human. So you can only convert lemons into lemonade if at all you're resilient and driven. Your vision must be bigger than the challenges you're facing.
Sure. I think in your perspective and view, and I guess also driven by the work that you do, Doc, and your passion, I mean, how can educational institutions, and even just in basic households, how can we inculcate and really train and equip these young entrepreneurs to have the free reign? I think you mentioned it earlier on how I think it was a challenge I experienced on my early journey. I'm trying to tell my mother I want to go into entrepreneurship. She thinks I'm crazy. She discards it. What is this thing? It's not going to happen. You know, how can we bring this in, especially supporting these young township aspirant youth who are vibrant and creative?
Let's talk about how you broke that. How did you break that family dynamic of I want to be an entrepreneur, and the family says maybe not, and then you go out and sell books, and then you become? How did you break that cycle for yourself?
No, I think for me it was. I think initially I told myself that this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, okay.
And because I told myself that this is what I was going to do, then I practiced the coming back home and saying I've applied for work. Whereas I know I've applied for nothing, but I'm now challenged myself to make this thing work so that I can prove much later on with no pressure that this is the thing I've been telling you guys about. You didn't believe in it, so I had to hide it so that you don't kill it. So I bring it back once it's birthed and it has life.
So you have to believe it, exactly.
Yeah.
So every young person that's watching and has been told you can never amount to anything, you can't be the entrepreneur that you want to become, what we are saying to them is you have to believe it. When we were growing up, one of the things we did, Bulelani, was to put posters in our bedrooms or in our homes of the people we looked up to. It was okay back then to put a Michael Jackson poster. Even when they knew you can't even dance to save your life. Even when they knew you can't even sing to save your life. They allowed you to do that. So now, when you are a young person that aspires to be an entrepreneur, show everybody in the house that you've got role models. Put a Bulelani picture in your house. Let it be your screen.
Wallpaper. Yes.
Show that that's who you look up to. Parents will always assimilate that if you look up to somebody, this is the person. I also tell you, because we come from the township, we move away from principles that were there. When Dr. Khumalo was your favorite player,
Yeah.
you were allowed to put a picture there. Nobody asked you if Dr. Khumalo finished matric or not.
Yes, actually.
They knew that he played for Butafako. From Butafako, he went to play for Kaizer Chiefs, and he became a rock star. So now, for me, I'm just saying that let's make entrepreneurship role modeling a part of our lives. Let's allow young people to go and explore. If you don't show it to your parents that you are wanting to be this thing, how do you expect them to understand you? And also, if you don't exercise discipline for the things you are going for, you discipline for schoolwork, discipline for the things you promise to do, discipline to perform the house chores, how then can you be trusted to be a disciplined person who wakes up every day to prep for the products, to go out there in the heat and sell the products and count the profits coming back and wake up the other day and go and stock and keep that cycle going year after year after year? Because we must tell young people that overnight success is 10 years.
Yeah.
If we don't tell young people that
Yeah.
it's repeated work for 10 years before you succeed, they won't even understand you that is the case. So for me, I just believe that let's go back to age-old practices of the township that made us different and showcase that's who we can be. And also, lastly, on this example, because it's easy to bring sports and entertainment into play. When we were growing up, black people were not allowed to be doctors.
Yeah.
Black people were not allowed to be chartered accountants. And therefore, we needed to look up to Nonkululeko of Goboto to say she was a first black chartered accountant. So now everybody can be a chartered accountant.
Yes.
So we can create the same pathway for people in entrepreneurship. Now, what is also good is that the South African government is open to integrating entrepreneurship in South African high schools. That is why in my other hat, in the corporate world, we are supporting that adventure. Because if we can change our mindset about curriculum, then they must bring real entrepreneurs to help shape that. So that will create a vision that says entrepreneurship can be a career pathway. But also, here's what is also quite interesting. 2024, for the first time, everybody looked up to an entrepreneur of the year as somebody was cutting hair.
Next, hey.
So if for the first time, we can now go back and say apprentice is, because we've always said entrepreneurship is about top tech, it's about all these amazing things.
Yes.
When Sheldon Tatchell, founder of Legends Barber Shop, was announced as Entrepreneur of the Year, it gave every township business, every young person, a shot in the arm that you can grow your business.
Yes.
You can grow your cutting of hair. You can grow your making of cakes. You can make a bakery. You can produce things that can be consumable even in spaces beyond your own neighborhood. And for me, that's what excites me about where we are. And that is why every story in Rising from the Township proves to me that every one of the entrepreneurs started with what they have. Every one of them did not say, because I don't have money, I can't do anything. Every one of them had to deal with people not believing they could be anything, but they believed in themselves and the vision that they had for themselves.
Now, Dr. Zwane, I think for me, one of the big standouts more than anything, and I think there's a lot, and I think because of your brilliance, there's so many more standouts that came that we can't even fit into this podcast.
Yeah.
But I think for me, one of the beautiful things that you've done and I've always advocated for is literature.
Yeah.
You know, especially literature about people who are in the township, who have achieved great milestones in the various sectors and industries that they're in.
Yeah.
But you didn't just think about this literature. You took it a step further, as you've alluded to earlier on, that you've authored a book, Rising from the Township, Rising from Ekas.
Yeah.
You know, with entrepreneurs I've had the privilege of working with that inspire me. You are in the book. Sheldon Nozi is there. Mamrita Zwane, a phenomenal entrepreneur. Debuch was there, and a number of others that are in the book. Could you please just tell us about the book?
So I think firstly, I think I must pay homage to YLED. I think the many years spent in YLED, when we only simply thought we were doing just youth development, we didn't realize that we were planting seeds of the future. Secondly, when Nelson Mandela said, education has the power to take the child of a farmer and make them a president, I did not know that could apply to me. especially when he said you must study to the highest level of your qualification.
Yes.
I never would have thought that I would study a doctorate. I think if I always say to my friends, if they remember the Stephen they remember in high school, that they would have thought will end up being a politician, and the university guys that I went to university with, all I wanted to do was to finish school and go and work.
Yes.
I had no time for honors and all of this stuff. And I think then I became curious about how do we make this entrepreneurship thing meaningful. And I think that's when I did my doctorate, and I decided to investigate the relationship between entrepreneurship education and entrepreneurship action. Like I said, then that's how the book came about. How do we close the role modeling gap? And for me, I grew up thinking there are many enough role models that I've seen. But because I've been in the ecosystem, in the activities, I might not realize that other people don't see role models. So one of the things that I did was to say, let me find entrepreneurs that in my head, 80% of whom their journey is still maturing.
Okay.
So meaning that what they've achieved now, they started with it when they were young, but they still have a lot of latitude to go with. That can be relatable to young people. That when somebody looks at it and say, oh, Sheldon, you've got Sheldon, you've got Candice Destin of Candy & Co.
Yes.
We want to read her story. That's the first thing. The other thing was I realized that our culture of reading in South Africa is not so big. We want to read and learn only with our eyes without taking the content, reading a book. And that's why they always, the old age reference point that says, if you want to hide anything from anyone, hide it in the book.
True.
Because reading, I see culture yet. And I thought if we package stories less than 26 pages, I think somebody's going to read less than 26 pages. It's not a full book that's intimidating. And also we said anyone will find themselves in one of the entrepreneurs in one way or the other. And I think now we come across people say, I loved Nose's story. Oh, I loved Stephen's story. Oh, I loved Temba's story.
Yeah.
So now we've got people choosing their own people that they like and look up to. And I think for me, we've achieved just one thing, to say people can rise from the township, but their destiny is not the township.
Yes.
So they have risen from it, meaning that their story, their backdrop is the township, but they did not allow the township define who they out to be. And I think for me, that's why we use the word rising, because you continue to rise. And then the other thing about the book was not only just to tell stories about the entrepreneurship journey, but we wanted to talk about the upbringing. Take you through the journey of the story of Stephen, where he started from. And then you can see yourself like, oh, I remember we were 18 in our home. Oh, I remember I also started to sell sweets at school. So you could find yourself in those stories. They must be relatable. But another thing that is important, Bulelani, is that the icons have left us with other stories. We don't have a Maponya autobiography story, fully fleshed, that we can connect with. And so these corridors of education, of literacy, of literature, were not really open to a lot of people. I mean, most of the entrepreneurs, when you approach them for a feature, they're like, me? Who wants to read about me? Who wants to know about my story? How is my story interesting? And we are saying to them, actually, the journey of inspiration is not a finished product.
Hey, I love that.
People want to see you, grow with you, and mature with you. And that's where inspiration takes place. I mean, I want to single out Nozi Pochabalala of the Conversation Strategist. I remember she's just used to interviewing and narrating, packaging people's stories. When we interviewed her, she said, I never thought I had a story. Thank you for coming in and bringing my story to the fore. And now she's produced a fully fledged book.
Wow.
After the fires. So now she then found the liberty to broaden her story and to know that her story can inspire many people. So I want to urge anyone who hasn't gotten themselves a copy to go out there and get themselves a copy. This is a story. This is what you call knowledge creation. we did not just only say these are the stories. We also have at the end here, as a teacher, I've got a chapter here, Bulelani, that says, before we end, a class before we end. So what we do with the class before we end, we then say, actually, there's a particular framework that South African entrepreneurs follow that makes them stand out. And it is that framework that we wanted to spell out. So whoever gets the book and wants to understand what is the framework that these entrepreneurs follow through when they start a business in the township, I want to just maybe spell out a few things. One is that they say, start with what you have.
Yeah.
Utilize your existing resources. Secondly, focus on making sure you invest minimally to what you need to invest in.
Yes.
Do not lose all your money. Leverage your network.
Sure. Wow.
If you can't leverage your network to start a business, you'll struggle. Network could be your friends, could be family. And then we say embrace uncertainty. You will encounter some challenges. Your resilience will be tested. But the power of it is that the entrepreneurs in this book have had to overcome many setbacks. So you can. It's not something new that we're asking of you. Then we're saying persist and pivot. Keep going every day. When a new opportunity comes, pivot to it, as long as it keeps you in the game. 2 more points, seek knowledge and skills. I think for me, that is where I want to play. We want to give you knowledge, we want to give you skills. Knowledge starts with learning from someone, and then seeking the skill sets that will take you and differentiate you from other people. And I think for me, this is a gift to South Africans. This is a gift to every young person. If you're in a group, you want to inspire someone, I even coined a term that's called entrepreneurship volunteering. Get somebody to volunteer, shadow an entrepreneur for a day. Let them understand that entrepreneurship is snip up and place.
Yeah.
And I think for more than anything else, this is a gift that we hope we'll keep giving for young people in the next generation for many years to come.
Just 2 more before we wrap up for me. And then, guys, you can't get all the nuggets. Buy the book. It's going to change your entrepreneurial journey. What is that one piece of advice or a book you read?
Yeah.
Whether in coming up or now as a seasoned leader, that has shifted your perspective, either in the early years, currently as you navigate, or a piece of advice or a motto that's kept you going?
You know, one of the mottos which I think might be steeped in spirituality, I think that I live by when things were tough, I always said somebody's going through worse. So if you think you're having it tough, please, somebody has been through worse, and they've overcome that tough.
Yes.
And so which is a mindset for me that says there is nothing that you cannot overcome if you set your mind in it. And then there's been many stories, many books written about the power of the mind. But for me, no young person is facing any challenge that other people haven't overcome and became greater than those circumstances. The stories of rising from the township is not limited to this book. You know somebody who, when somebody looked at them and say their family circumstances, when they look at them, they will never amount to anything. But they've defied the odds. You cannot defy the odds. I've been told you should not have turned out this way. And that is the power of, you can't define me.
Sure. And then I guess as we draw to a close, Dr. Steve, what is that one piece of advice? I mean, you've shared quite a bit.
Yeah.
Whether it's a one piece of advice, it's a one-liner message that you'd like to put out there. And then how we normally, the last thing that we always ask is, who is the next person you'd like to recommend for us to reach out to have on this podcast?
You know, I think the one thing is firstly the privilege that we now have to can create more spaces for people to learn.
Yeah.
That learning is no longer reduced to the classroom. You are conducting a masterclass through these interviews. Somebody will take away something. And you are meeting people where they are in terms of the content. And you are also saying to them, I can take content in your backyard and you can come and consume it. And I think for me, that is a powerful thing. And I really want to commend you for that. And then the thing about who would I want you to bring in the township. I think from Rising from the Township, I'd like to bring Tebogo Piri.
Phenomenal.
Of the Sofeng.
Phenomenal.
I think similar establishment is the one we are sitting at. But more importantly, I think for me, Tebogo followed his passion.
Mm.
A lot of the people that I've seen come here is because they followed their passion. You followed your passion. You continue to deliver on your passion. I just think that Tebogo will be one of those that demystify how we look at entertainment in the township.
Yeah.
But more importantly, he was a car salesman. He used to sell cars. And he realized that if I sell cars, I'll always be enriching somebody. When do I enrich myself? And let me do something that I really love. I think he'll be brilliant. But maybe one of the things I wanted to do for you, Wililani, as you started this podcast, what is the one goal you want to achieve with it?
I think the one main goal really for us is, because our measurement is twofold.
Yeah.
We want to share simple, practical information. If there's inspiration, it's about the way.
Yeah.
Where a person, a young aspirant or a micro enterprise, an early stage small business owner can listen to this and then literally take notes as they watch to go implement immediately. Either in business or the implementation is go to apply if it's a DFI that we have on this particular podcast. So they'll sort of shift away from the you can do it and say you can do it and this is how you can do it and then you can choose to try to do it.
I just want to say to you that you represent that.
Wow.
I think you can't tell people to seek knowledge if you don't represent it. And to a certain extent, you are giving a new narrative, which means you are introducing us to thinking differently. It's easy to come and talk about leadership. We've got many of them. Entrepreneurship is a new phenomenon. And it will take some doing that people have to understand, have to listen to it, have to really know what it means. I want you to walk away out of this thing in the same way that you did. Start with what you have. You started with what you had. So whoever is watching the podcast and is thinking about what to do, we were simply saying start with what you have. Check, look within. What do you know? Start there and you can be an entrepreneur.
Guys, I'll tell you one thing we're going to definitely do. Dr. Zwane's peers here, I'm going to finesse him as best as I can for us to do an online masterclass. At the worst. Because, wow, sure. I'm really honored. I'm really grateful. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for what you've done online and also the chats we've had offline. And I really, really appreciate it. Guys, thank you so much for watching episode 7 of the Kasi Business Workshop. This is our season 2. We're very excited about it. But most importantly, the episode premieres on Monday, 12 midday. Watch the episodes, learn from the episode, reach out to the authors, the entrepreneurs and the business leader, come onto the platform and tell them what you've learned. But more than anything, go out there and get things done and join us on the Kasi Business Podcast.